Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to 2026. I'm Margherita, and this is the very first episode of this podcast. Well, life changes various things, doesn't it? Last year, I spent the year healing from cancer and developing or navigating a path through social media with YouTube channels, etc., etc. So this year, I'm needing to scale back somewhat because of my health journey with the cancer. And so this is the first of the podcast series. A podcast is where you get to listen. You can be driving, doing your housework, riding your horse, doing whatever you want to be doing, and just listening. So I wanted to begin here, not with planning or pushing forward, but by gently closing the year that's just passed. Because so often we rush into a new year without actually finishing the last one. This episode is about reflection, not judgment, not pressure, just awareness. Awareness is so important. So we'll talk about reviewing the year that was. Man, it was a year. What you learned, what you survived, and how that sets the foundation for what comes next. The next episodes will be about planning and doing, but today is about the review because wisdom lives here. So, wherever you are, walking, driving, or sitting with a cuppa, let's slow this down together. So, why review? Why review matters? Most people plan. Some people do. Very few people actually review. And when we skip the review, we tend to repeat the same patterns, just in a different year. And an incredible mentor of mine once said, the lesson will be repeated and repeated until it's learned. I thought, oh my gosh, excuse me, I really do have to concentrate on learning these lessons because some of them have been pretty darn hard. So have you ever felt like you're living a version of Groundhog Day? A different scenery, same experience? That's often why. Reviewing the year isn't about dragging things back up. It's about choosing the lesson. So it doesn't have to keep choosing you. Hey, hallelujah to that. There is no right or wrong year. Some of you may have loved last year. Some of you may have been very happy it's over. Both are valid. But every year holds information, good or bad. And that information is what helps you move forward with clarity. A gentle year in review practice. This is one of my favourite exercises coming up, and one made so much easier by scrolling through the photos on your phone. So the exercise is to write down 25 memorable things you have done or accomplished this year. And I thought before, somebody suggested using your iPhone for the photo memories, I thought, man, that's going to be hard. What did I do last year? I spent most of the year healing. Aha! Open up the camera and actually, despite just healing, I did quite a bit. So we're going to write down 25 memorable things you have done. You might get more than 25. That's fine. 25 is your minimum. They can be things you've achieved, things you handled, and things you survived, things you've learned from. So when I finally sat down to do this, I didn't think I'd even get close to 25, as I just said. I thought I had quite a non-remarkable year. But with the help of the photos, I was reminded of many things. For example, the manner in which I handled the consequences of my runaway Brer Rabbit tractor as it bounced down the hill. I was so proud of myself for not spitting the dummy, but how calmly I acknowledged the situation and began to explore the options. Tell you what, just a few short years ago, having come through the divorce, etc., something like that would have knocked me for six. Just totally would not have been able to handle it. I also went on a 5-day ride for Dolly, a ride of 4 days, following chemotherapy. Not one of my brightest ideas. However, I did it and I enjoyed most of it. I have navigated the return of cancer and healing options and yes, have spit the dummy. I spit the dummy reactions when I expected better results. how many times I went in confident that my results would reflect the good work that I had been doing mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, eating the right food, all of that sort of stuff. Oh man, and each time I was disappointed, and just recently drastically disappointed, devastated. However, I continually chose to feel good as opposed to going down the rabbit hole of woe is me and feeling like crap. But I remind you, I did feel like crap. I did have a cry. I did spit the dummy, and I did stamp my feet, all those sorts of things. But by the end of each day, I had got myself together and I was making that decision to choose to feel good. Because choosing to feel good has so many more advantages over the going down the rabbit hole of woe is me, feeling horrible. So I gave myself permission to browse through the camera roll of last year and acknowledge the wonderful things I did, that I handled, and I acknowledged my growth, like I said with the tractor. Acknowledging is important to our growth. Like, I don't know, I've often said to you, when you're talking, when you're doing things, acknowledge your success. And I often say to myself, because I live here by myself, Margherita, you're a legend when I get things right. And when I don't get things right, yes, I do say, Margherita, you're a cluckhead, you're a fluffhead, something like that. Not too drastic, because we all make mistakes and we all learn from those mistakes. But I do acknowledge my success. So this coming exercise does something else that is powerful. It closes the year with self-respect instead of pure dismissal. And when you close a chapter that way, you don't carry unfinished emotional baggage into the next one. If you're someone who likes structure, like I am, here's a simple way to review the year without overwhelm. Firstly, I highly recommend the use of a notebook, as do my coaching mentors. Writing it down, a notebook, a pen, and taking yourself off in a quiet moment. Scheduling yourself time for you to do this. Because as my coaching mentors have demonstrated to me, there's something powerful about writing by hand. It slows the mind and tells your nervous system you're safe to reflect. So go ahead and put me on pause while you delve through your camera roll and find at least 25 things that you've achieved, handled, learnt, or grew from. And let me just share another momentous moment with you. Was when I was flying to Sydney. So two examples there. The experience of flying to Sydney and participating with the Global Sisters, but then also the experience and the drama that went with it. Like the day before I went up, the water was fine. The trough was full, the 3 tanks were full, and this little voice said, Margherita, that green tank has been full all year. You should go and turn it over so it starts to get used. There was no necessity to do that. However, I listened, I went up, and those blessed cows had been frolicking around the trough that had been there for 30 years and tipped it over, broken the pipes, and not a drop of water in the trough, because obviously it was tipped over, and water running down running down the hill and emptying my tanks. So, wow. And I handled that. I thought, wow, step 1, turn the tap off at the tanks, stop the water. And then I thought, this is an easy solution. Just go and open the other gate and they'll walk into the next paddock, which has a dam in it. Man, that would have thrown me for 6 yet again, just a few short years ago. And you know what? I just felt so proud of myself, and I just kept telling myself, wow, Margherita, you're a legend. So proud of you. And it is those moments, because you're acknowledging the growth that you've had, and basically where you've come from. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so now let's go over that. So, put me on pause. Off you go and get your 25 that you've achieved. All right, so now let's go over that quick list and ask yourself these questions. Have a look at those, what you've written down, and look at what were my biggest personal wins this year. And they don't have to be dramatic. Sometimes showing up counts. Surviving counts. And I can tick both of those boxes. Again, just go back over your list and, pull them out from there. Pull them out from your brain, from your memory. Have a look again at your list and see what challenged me this year. There's no need to relive it. Just acknowledge it. And ask yourself, what did this teach me? What did I learn about myself? What was the lesson? Interestingly enough, what did I have recently that just happened? Oh, I know. The drastic cancer results. Oh dear. And yes, about an hour or two, maybe even 3 hours into it, of hitting rock bottom, I finally was able to at least pull myself up a little bit and say, well, Margherita, what is there to be learnt from this? And I'm not sure that I answered that question, but it certainly put the whole grief, pity me, woe is me on pause and enabled me to breathe and pretty much move forward. And, the next day, bright and bushy like the beautiful morning sunshine it was. So what did I learn about myself? I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned that I am pretty darn resilient. Sometimes the win isn't the outcome. It's the resilience. It's the strength and the confidence in the manner you handled it. And you know what? I don't mind sharing with you. I am so, so proud of how I've handled so many things this last year. Yeah. Anyway, number 3, where did your energy go? Have a look at what drained you. Interesting. Have a look at what drained you. And then have a look at what gave you life. And it doesn't take rocket science to know that the next bit of information is going to be, what will you do to set boundaries upon that which drained you? Because ultimately, I don't know about you, but I certainly don't want to be hanging around people who drain me. I've got enough energy exiting my body, trying to heal, not to be wasting it upon others. So this question, or these 2 questions alone, can change how you approach the next year. Because truly, guys, folk, you really don't want to be putting energy into people who are draining you. You want to be challenging energy into people who give you life, who reciprocate what you give out. And whilst I firmly believe what you give out comes back to you, there are always those sneaky little critters of people who weave their way or wriggle their way into your life to drain you. And they do it so quietly. It's just a matter of saying, oh, goodness gracious me, this is what's happening here. Not on my agenda, not on my watch. Yeah. So looking ahead, without planning just yet, once you've reviewed the year, something naturally opens up. Curiosity. We haven't set any goals yet. We've got no strategy yet. We just have a question, or I just have a question. Who do you want to become as you move forward? Who do I want to become as I move forward? Now, you don't need the full picture, and you don't need to know the how. Sometimes it's easier to start with, who do I no longer want to be? And what do I no longer want to repeat? That's an exceptionally good question, I have to say. From there, clarity emerges. The next episodes will walk you through setting direction, building momentum, and reviewing again without burnout. But none of that works if you don't finish where you've been. Tidy up last year, wrap it up in a bow, and gather your learnings for this year. Before we plan the future, we honour the past. So your invitation after this episode is simple. Review your year, and I suggest you have some fun going through your camera roll. I did. Write the list. Write the answers to the questions, i.e. notice what you learned. No need to rush. You don't need to fix anything today. In fact, you're not fixing anything. You're just observing and acknowledging. You're just finishing the chapter of 2025 consciously. So in the next episode, next week, we'll begin the planning phase with simple intention, no pressure. Thank you for being here on my very first podcast, and I look forward to sharing more wisdom with you over the coming weeks throughout the year. And I'll meet you in the next episode. With heart, Margherita, thrive and shine.